Here's what my initial plan is mid-February, what I would do with the offseason. And before I say what it is, my thinking is the Niners are overinvested on their defensive line. They have a lot of money and draft picks poured into that defensive line when I believe it's much more difficult to build a great offensive line. They're both important, but it's really hard to build a good offensive line. It's easier to build a great defensive line. There's just a lot of guys in the draft, a lot of guys in free agency. Look at what Tampa put together. Those are kind of cast-offs they got that are good. But anyway, overinvesting on a D-line, your O-line freaking stinks. And I don't believe it's smart to just act like the solution to the offensive line problem is bringing in another quarterback. Like, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. Let's bring in Mac Jones. Like, well, he'll get hurt. Hey, let's just ask Deshaun Watson to be Superman. Like, well, he could to an extent, but look what happened to Patrick Mahomes. That was extreme. But even look at Deshaun Watson. He's not Superman enough in Houston. I mean, you need a supporting cast. So I'm going to go the opposite direction entirely. I'm going to beef up the supporting cast on offense to the point where Jimmy could succeed, or Josh Rosen could succeed, or any pocket quarterback who can throw the ball downfield with accuracy can succeed. I'm not really worried about, hey, protect yourself with your legs. That didn't work for Seattle. It doesn't really work. I want the best supporting cast possible on offense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Nick Bosa, okay? I'm going to trade him to the Jets for the number 2 pick. I think this is a fair trade. Look at DeForest Buckner. Great player, 7th pick in the draft, only improved, traded for the 13th pick. Nick Bosa has torn 2 ACLs and a groin muscle. If the Niners could get the number 2 pick, you'd basically be getting what you gave up for him. And I'd be cool with that. But I'm not done. I wouldn't use the number 2 pick. I would trade down. Okay? I would trade down from 2 to 5, like 3 spots. But if you look at the trade value chart, that gets you like 900 points. So that's like, if you trade down from 2 to 5, you could get a 2 this year, a 2 next year, and a 4 this year. Something like that. 2 to 6, something like that. I don't know which team it would be. Trade down to 4, 5, 6. I don't know. Somewhere in that range. And what I would do is I would take Penei Sewell. Okay? I would take who I see as a 10-year Pro Bowl left tackle.
You don't think he would go? You don't think he would go before 6?
I don't know. I'm late. Let me get through it first, and you tell me the weaknesses in my plan. Because I look at the mock drafts, and some have him going 3, some have him going 8. So I don't know. I'm saying usually the quarterbacks usually end up going 1, 2, 3, and then maybe he'll go 4, maybe he'll go 5. I'm trying to figure out where he'll go. Maybe 4, 5, somewhere in there. Trade down, get two 2s and a 4. Take Sewell. And I want the left tackle. I think it's harder to find a great left tackle than a great defensive end. And the reason I'm trading Bosa is because I'm basically betting against him to be a durable player. I think if you set the over-under in Vegas right now for is he going to play more or less than 5% of his future games, I would bet under. That's just the way I see it. Nothing against the way he plays. I just think he's an accident waiting to happen. Sorry, Nick. So I'm trading him for the 10-year left tackle. But it's not just that. Trade Bosa for number 2. You trade down, you take Sewell. But now you got that 900 points you just got. So you can trade up from 12. You can take 500 of those 900 points, like a 2 and a 4, and move up from 12 to 6. And now you can get Devontae Smith from Alabama, who, in my opinion, is better than any wide receiver that came out last year. Is probably the best Alabama receiver of all time, better than Amari Cooper. This guy could be, I think to me, Penei Sewell and Devontae Smith are the most bust-proof offensive players in the draft. And if you could bring back Trent Williams, add Sewell, and basically, let me hold off on Trent Williams for a second. You're turning Bosa into Sewell, Devontae Smith in the 2nd-round pick. You're getting 3 players for Nick Bosa. I think that's pretty good. And then if you can bring back Trent Williams as well, now you've got a hell of an offensive line. If you can't afford to bring back Trent Williams and Jimmy Garoppolo, then see it, Jimmy. Trade him and Mike McGlinchey to the Patriots if you can, or cut him. Because I think with a team that has Penei Sewell, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Devontae Smith, Brandon Ayuk, I don't know where I'm pointing, Deebo Samuel, Raheem Mostert, I mean, just a lot of quarterbacks could succeed. I'm going to go the other way. I know it's a very important position, but I'm going to go with beef up everything else on the offense. Be easy on me, Vish. Be gentle. What do you think?
Okay, first that was
What
a
do you think?
lot to take in, like a lot. You threw a lot of information at me, but I think I processed it all.
Okay, thank you.
So let's start. I think you wanted to trade Bosa for two. I think
Yes.
the thing with that, I think there's a problem with that. It's in and of itself because there's no telling whether the Jets want to give up the number 2 overall pick for Nick Bosa. Because if you're going to take a quarterback at 2, I'm sorry, quarterback over edge rusher on the value chart. So there's not. It would cost Nick
Sure.
Bosa and something.
Let me address
If
that
the
real quick.
Jets
Let me address that real quick. The reason I think the Jets would bite is because Robert Saleh. I think Robert Saleh would probably respect and admire Nick Bosa as much as any coach in the league. Probably had a big hand in the Niners drafting him. And I personally feel that if I were on the Jets, from Joe Douglas's perspective, I would rather give Sam Darnold another chance than to get rid of him for a guy like Zach Wilson, who I'm not personally sure is that much better than Sam Darnold right now. That's where I'm coming from. But good point. Go down the list of things that you feel are weak in my argument. I mean, not
Okay,
in my scenario.
That's one. And then two, I just feel like this. I feel like you've offered a very idealistic approach for the 49ers on a way they could build this kind of dream team offense. But I think you've kind of discounted and totally disregarded 31 other teams in the NFL and their willingness to make such moves. Because the Niners, it would feel like then they would have complete control of the entire league and being able to move like playing franchise mode in Madden. Like, all right, I want to send Bosa. I want these 2 picks. I want to draft this guy, but then I want to move up here and get this guy and get these 2 picks. I just think it's something that while like I don't think the scenario and what you're looking at, I don't think that's crazy. I think it's a very interesting thought process. I think it's a really
Okay,
cool
well, let me address
exercise
that
to
one.
think about. But
I told you why I think the Jets would be interested in Bosa. I think there's an argument to be made there. I don't know if they are.
yeah,
We'll
of
see. It's
course.
worth a call. And then why I think the Niners could trade down. Again, usually in drafts, by the time, what is it, April comes around, the entire league has convinced themselves have talked themselves into the quarterbacks. And there's some desperate team that's going to trade up to number 2 for a quarterback. And someone's going to feel it's Justin Fields is just the truth, or it's Zach Wilson. And I don't know if all it takes is one team to say, I don't know if it would be Cincinnati or Philly. And probably Cincinnati won't trade up for a quarterback unless there's something we don't know about Joe Burrow's recovery. Maybe Philly wants to start over and they don't really believe in either. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what those GMs are going to think of these quarterbacks? I just feel like there's usually a market to trade down from 2 to somewhere 3, 4, 5 picks back if the quarterbacks are highly regarded. And this year it seems like I don't like Zach Wilson that much, but most people do. I don't like Justin Fields that much, but most people really do. So I would try to profit off of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, ultimately, look, I don't think what you brought up here is crazy. I just think that it's something that's a little too idealistic and risky. But I think the entire idea of it, the thought process, I don't think it's wild at all. I think it's something. I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely something to think about and
yeah. I mean, big
further
picture, what I'm
talk
thinking
about.
is,
Yeah,
instead of just making the quarterback get the quarterback at all costs, it's basically the inverse. Why don't
yeah,
we
I see what you're
make
doing.
the rest of the offense perfect? Just knock it out. Finish the offensive line. Get 2 great tackles. And this, what do you think of Devontae Smith? People that like Mac Jones, I think, secretly just really like Devontae Smith.
I like Devontae Smith a lot. Now, would I say he's better than Amari Cooper in college? No. I think he's better than Jerry Jeudy for
I think he's better
sure.
over the middle. I think he's better over
I
the
think
middle than Cooper was.
Yeah, but I think Cooper had an explosion that Smith doesn't have in terms of speed. And I think he's the better version of what Jerry Jeudy was supposed to be. I think that's what he is. He's really smooth, great route runner, all of that. Now, do I think that he's a can't miss football player in terms of a receiver? No, I don't.
I think he's can't miss, for the record. I think that guy is as close to can't miss as those two, Sewell and him. I don't know. I mean, I thought he was clearly better than Jeudy.
Yeah, I thought he was better than Jeudy last year, to be honest.
Yes. Me too. When I would watch Jeudy, I was like, yeah, he's good, but this dude right here is the dude. Anyway, we got some questions here. In that scenario, you want to stay above the Bengals to get Sewell. Atlanta is at 4, and I believe want a quarterback. See you Thursday. Okay, there you go. Okay, trade down from 2 to 4. That seems to make sense. And then what's cool about it is you get a lot of points from trading down just 2 spots. And Now you can use some of that to move back up from 12, and you can turn Bosa into 2 top 10 picks. 2 top 10 picks. And that's so you're not giving Bosa away. You're actually, I think, turning him into more than he might be worth if he gets hurt again. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Real quick, Grant, what I did want to mention is I left out 2 guys, actually, that I did want to mention when we were talking about snubs. I left out Kerry Hyder. He was a guy I did think about, but for me, I thought that we saw the very best of Kerry Hyder play football last year. I don't think he's going to be near that production again in his career, but I thought he was phenomenal for the Niners. And then I saw a lot of people put Greenlaw in the comments. I actually didn't think Greenlaw had a very strong season last season. I don't know what he was going through and all of that, but I thought he really struggled in coverage. And a lot of the mistakes people pointed out with Quan Alexander, Dre Greenlaw wasn't playing as good assignment sound football in coverage as he should have. It was just people didn't point them out and highlight them because he doesn't make $10 million like Quan Alexander does. So he wasn't really there for me.
Good call. David W. says tight end Pitts at 12, O-line in rounds 2 and 3. It's similar logic to what I'm going with Sewell and Smith, but the reason I like my idea a little bit better, no offense, David, is because you go O-line first. I really feel like Devontae Smith, great player, Pitts, great player, but they're kind of luxuries. Like you need to address the offensive line. You can't keep working around that. If you and getting him in round 2 and 3 is great, but getting him at 12 would be better. Getting him at 3 or 4 would be better. That's just the way I look at it because I know defense is really important. Defensive line is also extremely important, but it's so hard to put together a great offensive line. And if you have one,
I have a question for those of the people that are so obsessed with the idea of drafting Kyle Pitts. I love that idea. I love it in a sense, right? Like Kyle Pitts is an outstanding football player, but what offensive personnel do you expect the Niners to run? Does that mean you don't want Kyle Juszczyk to come back? Because the 2 receivers, when healthy, Ayuk and Debo have to be on the field. I think we all agree with that. George Kittle has to be on the field. They're going to have a running back on the field. That's 4 of the 5 eligibles, which means who's going to be the 5th player? Is it going to be Pitts? Is it going to be then and don't bring back Juszczyk? Is it going to be bring back Juszczyk and Pitts? Like, I don't know how you would work an offense here. Like, in theory, this is great. But if you have a 12th overall pick, when you have a team with actual positional needs and that 12th overall pick is playing 40% of the snaps, it's not good enough. Like, Dallas tried to strengthen that strength with CeeDee Lamb last year. And I love CeeDee Lamb. I loved CeeDee Lamb before the draft. But they were better off taking a lineman or a cornerback than they were CeeDee Lamb just because of positional value and what they already had.
Also, I think the Niners have a bigger need at wide receiver than tight end because of Deebo Samuel's hamstring. That's an issue. I mean, that's the thing with hamstrings is they could be chronic. He had it in college. He has it now. It's a mystery.
Right.
It's a mystery. It could be chronic. It could not be. So if the Niners were to get another wide receiver, you'd say, well, at least they won't be at the mercy of Deebo Samuel's hamstring next season the way they were this season. You can say that about Kittle too, but I think Kittle's foot injury was kind of a freak injury. I'm not thinking, what if that foot breaks again? I don't think that.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't think tight end is a need for the Niners. I'm Ross Dwelly's biggest fan, and the guy can't get any targets.
And if people want Pitts, I think that I don't think Reed has much value at the moment. I think they could easily bring back Reed, and he could be an approximation of what Pitts would be next year.
Okay.
For cheap.
Yeah. Well, I don't expect the Niners to trade Nick Bosa to the Jets, but that's what I would do. See what happens. Hey, if Nick Bosa comes back and plays 16 games a year for the next 5 years, I will delete this video. I'll tell you right now. But I just have a feeling, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. It's not just that he had the one injury. I guess it's the fact that there was the one in Ohio State and the one in high school. And so far the pattern he has is basically play a year, miss a year. So
do you know how many impressions this video would get if Nick Bosa comes back and does that? I don't think you want to do that. Like, people think the guys that were wrong about Justin Herbert are really mad that they were wrong about Justin Herbert. No, when you're telling them they're wrong about Justin Herbert, you're just making their business boom.
That's true. Spoken like someone who recently monetized on YouTube. Hey, by the way, congrats, dude.
Thank you so much.
Now an undergrad make it bank. Bro, so that's tight. That's tight.
Really, it's really thanks to Grant.
Did you get any donations on your first one yet?
No, we didn't get any donations.
You guys are crazy. Everyone subscribe to Vish's channel right now, and next time he goes live, throw him $5. Come on. Are you kidding?
I really appreciate that.
If the Niners can move off D Ford and Richburg, you think the Niners take a shot at a pass rusher heavy free agent pool?
Okay, so there's a couple details with D Ford that I need somebody to tell me. Is there an injury settlement one on his contract, and what is that, and how does that affect the cap?
I don't
And
know.
two, I do know that D Ford, it's better to cut him post June 1st than it is pre June 1st. I think Coach Johnson, I think you're having him on again this week. He'll go through the savings. He's a D Ford expert, D Ford cap hit expert, so he can go through that. But I would love for them to take a shot at Yannick Ngakoue. And I think Yannick Ngakoue is going to be this year's Jadeveon Clowney, where he's going to be looking for the big deal. He's not going to really get the big deal, and he's going to stay around for that 1 year deal.
Did I lose you?
No, you're paused.
Am I here? Am I here still?
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry. It says my connection's unstable. You're unstable. Sorry about that. Keep going. Yannick Ngakoue.
No, so that's who I would like it. And I think Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney is the example that you should look for. I think he's going to have a similar situation where he's going to be really gunning for that 4 year, 5 year deal of excess of like 60, 70 million. And I don't think he's going to get it. I think that he's going to take a 1 year deal somewhere and go try to have a good season. And so I would love for the Niners to get him. I think he makes perfect sense. He's had success in this scheme, playing as the Leo, as they call it. And so I think that I think first you have to understand about D Ford and Richburg's contracts, what the cap hits are, what the post June 1st, all of that is. I think there's a lot more to it than their stats.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on the D Ford Richburg thing, but as far as signing free agent pass rushers, I think it works. I like it. I mean, look what Tampa did. They drafted Vita Vea, but the other three guys were free agent guys, right?
Seattle originally, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill.
I think you can get pass rushers in free agency and like guys, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, people had kind of given up on him. Shaq Barrett wasn't a huge name when he went to Tampa. And Ndamukong Suh was on like his 7th team or something. So you can get guys every year. It seems like, if the Niners could get rid of D Ford and bring in a guy like Ngakoue. No, Ngakoue is a hell of a player. If they could get him, he's a hell of a player. Matt H says, why are we not talking about Surtain II? It's realistic. He's there at 12, all pro ceiling. Will the Niners pass up a cornerstone cornerback? Finally, value corners. I mean, we got to talk about him.
First,
have you watched him much?
I haven't watched a minute of him, so I don't know about this all pro ceiling, all of that. Second, if he is really an all pro ceiling corner, those guys don't make it out of the top 5. If he's a Patrick Peterson, the type of guy that you say from day one is going to be an all pro, I think people looked at Jeff Okudah in the same sense. Those guys do not make it out of the first 10 picks in the draft unless they have an injury concern, which I'm not aware that he has one. And 3, I don't think the Niners would pass up a cornerstone cornerback in this draft just because I think if you put the gun to the head, the Niners would always take the elite pass rusher over the cornerback. But I think this draft doesn't have that 1 or 2 elite pass rushers that you can guarantee is going to come in and be a really good player from day one. So I think this is the draft that we might see them take a corner over a pass rusher.
I'm always into the Niners taking a corner. Always. I always push for it, but I can't this year. I just can't get over the fact that the offense is the problem. I mean, even Jason Verrett should be on this team again next year. And if he's back, this defense without Nick Bosa and without a firm starter next to Jason Verrett at corner was a top 5 defense. Now it had its bad games, but still over a 16-game season, it was not the problem. The offense was a big, big problem. And to me, it started at the offensive line. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't great, but he's not awful. He got hurt. So did Nick Mullins. So would have, a lot of quarterbacks, maybe not Tom Brady because he's the greatest, but I think they really have to go offense in the first round. They got to help this offense, either quarterback or offensive line or someone. I think it has to be offensive.
So I've thrown out this idea, and it's all contingent on them bringing Verrett back. And I'm going to throw out a couple of names that Niners fans won't be excited to hear. But I think it's if they can't bring back Ahkello Witherspoon, I'm talking about similar players to him, guys that have great physical traits, drafted high, played in similar defenses, fit similar defenses, and that's Kevin King and Shaq Griffin. Why not bring those guys on a 1 year, $5 million contract and ask them to compete for the starting job? Now, you can't ask them to be your number 1 corner, but if Verrett's your number 1 corner, You have Mosley. Maybe you draft another guy in the third round. Now you have competition for your next 3 corner spots, and you have some sort of depth at corner with those guys.
I like that. I mean, you'd love to get Patrick Surtain, but I think offense is a bigger need than defense. But I could be wrong. I don't know. That's the way I look at it. Jose Bautista said, "Is Bosa the next D Ford?"
No,
there's no way to know. There's no way to know, Vish.
But they're different from the standpoint that Bosa's gotten injured again, but I don't think Bosa has a lingering chronic problem in any part of his body yet. You remember D Ford when he came out of Auburn, he had a back that was medically flagged, and that was the reason people were even scared to take D Ford in the first round. D Ford's traits, D Ford's play, everything screamed first round player. But the reason people were scared to take him in the first round because he had a bad back that he's been managing his entire career. Bosa's not there yet.
No, but Bosa has now had 3 huge surgeries. And I think I'm not going to speak for Jose. I'm sure he wasn't saying that it's an exact 1-to-1, but I think is Bosa the next D Ford in the sense a guy who's going to be in and out, who's going to not play as much as you want. Or
who knows?
Who knows? We just don't know. And what I'm saying is, I don't want to find out. I want to trade him now. And what you're saying is, give him a chance. And maybe that's the right thing. Maybe that's we'll I have no idea. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I just said he was the best player on the 49ers, didn't I? If I said don't give him a chance, then I'm nuts. I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah. And I'm saying from what I've seen, high school, college, if he were to turn it around and string together 3, 4, 5 seasons like Fred Warner just did, I would be freaking shocked. Just because the evidence hasn't pointed that. But I didn't think Jason Verrett would turn around either. So we'll see. Zorro's Rage, hell of a name, says trade Jimmy, get Minshew, draft corner lineman, then rounds 2, 3 get a potential quarterback. If not, then fix another gap. Then have Minshew, Rosen, rookie. Look,
Zorro loves Minshew.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on Minshew, but basically, yes. Rosen, rookie, Mullins, Minshew, Fitzpatrick. I just want to set up an offense where I feel like it really doesn't matter who the quarterback is. As long as he's healthy and a starting caliber guy who's pretty good, he's set up to succeed because he's got 2 of the best tackles in the league, 2 of the best running backs in the league in this system, the best tight end, and 3 extremely talented wide receivers. I mean, if you can't play quarterback with that around you, you shouldn't be in the NFL. That's what I'm saying. So, Josh Rosen, Gardner Minshew, why not? Me, let Kyle do it. Kyle, you can play quarterback. All right, man. There was one from K. What is K saying? Oh, hold on. All right. Can't be afraid to move up for a quarterback in round 1, especially if you trade Bosa at 2. Wilson with Kyle and weapons would be scary. O-line or move back at 12. What do you think, Vish? Trade Bosa for a quarterback? I mean, you got to consider it.
I would consider it. I like the idea of trading up. I like Wilson and I like Fields more than you because it's not that I think that they're A+ quarterback prospects, but I think within this offense they can both be really good quarterbacks. Sure. So I really like them from that standpoint. I'm just not a fan of trading Nick Bosa. I think you got to give him one more year because that rookie year was so good. And the business of drafting people number 2 overall is to get Nick Bosa, who you can eventually pay. That's the entire point of this. That's why what the Niners did with DeForest Buckner was weird because you want to draft DeForest Buckner at pick 7. You want him to play 5 years for your franchise 4 years without missing a start. You want him to be an Pro Bowl level player and then give him a big contract. That's the entire idea of drafting and developing. So I know that people think Bosa has this value and we can just get rid of him, but this is unfortunately not a Moneyball league in my opinion. And I know Grant's a fan of this one, but for me, I'm not into the idea of trading. Let
me stick with it. Let me explain why I'm trading Nick Bosa. This most recent torn ACL, they said it wasn't just a torn ACL. There were more things in there. We don't know what he's going to be when he gets back. We don't. He could be exactly what he was, or he couldn't. He could come back and miss another 8 games next year and not be quite himself. And then when you waited to get the visual confirmation of what your brain probably could have told you was going to happen, now the value isn't there. Now, if you want to trade him, You're not getting the second pick in the draft. You're not getting a first round pick. So yes, by doing it now, it's risky. I mean, you're betting. It's a gamble. And I'm basically shorting Nick Bosa. I learned what shorting means recently because of the thing with GameStop. So I'm shorting Nick Bosa. I don't think he's got it in him. And you're betting on him, and I think that's really cool. But I feel pretty confident in my short position here, unless you buy up all the Nick Bosa stock, then I'm screwed. I think that's how it works. So I just confused myself. That's how smart I am. So look, he's got the ACL plus. You don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. I just want to, if you look at a guy and say it's not durable, like we say with Jimmy, it's not durable. It's always going to be something with him. Then don't wait. Make up your mind. Get the most you can, because that's a depreciating asset. That's basically a Ferrari with a messed up engine. And as soon as people figure it out, you just lost $80,000 on that $120,000 purchase. You know what I'm saying? It's got no value.
Fair enough.